Welcome to Return to Me, Lessons from Ezra on Rebuilding Our Lives. This is session 6, the wrap-up session, the conclusion. I've titled it, Keep Seeking New Spiritual Leaders. In the previous sessions, we have studied Ezra chapter 1 to 6, and now we're going to take a quick look at 7 through 10. But before we start there, I want to do a brief review for you. Remember, we had the Edict of Cyrus in 538 BC that allowed a group of the people of the Jews to go back to Jerusalem to rebuild the temple. Joshua and Zerubabbel were the leaders of that group, as we have just finished studying. The temple was finished in 516 BC, 20 years later. Now, 38 years later, after that, Esther is now the queen of Persia under Xerxes. You can read about her story in the book of Esther. I suggest you take a look at that. The son of Xerxes, Artaxerxes, in the 8th year of his reign, sends Ezra to be the spiritual leader back in Jerusalem. So Ezra gets to lead a second group that goes back to Jerusalem, but this time there's only about 3,000 people, but it's very similar. There's a decree of Artaxerxes, and he sends them with gold and silver and financing and authority to set judges. So they fast and they pray for protection, and they arrive in Jerusalem after a 4-month journey in the year 457 BC, 59 years after the temple was finished. You can imagine there's a whole new group of people living there. Maybe several generations now have passed. Well, when Ezra arrives, his heart is broken because he has found that the people have intermarried with the people of the local culture, with the Samaritans. Ezra gets down on his knees and prays to God for forgiveness, taking the sin of the whole nation on himself, and is told by a prophet, we don't know his name, to begin to clean house. He makes them put away their pagan wives, and they begin to fully obey God once again. 13 years later, once more, Nehemiah is informed that things are rough again in Jerusalem. The people are under attack. There's no walls. No walls had been built. So King Artaxerxes allows him, Nehemiah, to return with the king's support to build the wall of protection. He builds the wall and puts everything in order once again. In the last lesson, we completed the temple and we celebrated. So what happens next for us? The main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. Avoid the pitfalls that Satan throws at us. Hold on to our first love. Return to me. Remember those foundation stones? Keep spending time in his presence, thanking and praising him for each thing, meditating on his greatness and goodness, and keeping our eyes focused forward on him, the author and finisher of our faith. Be sure to watch and pray. Stay awake. Be on the lookout for the schemes of the enemy. Be sure to keep focusing on the work God has called us to do instead of building our own homes, interests, and lives in this world. We're bondservants of him. We were bought with a price. We need to honor God. Personally, this is one of the hardest ones for me to do. I keep getting off track, wanting to go on to my own life and forgetting to ask God what it is that he wants me to be doing now. Not to assume that the ministry I'm doing is the one I should stay in. To keep questioning him and asking him where he wants me to be and how he wants me to serve him. Be sure to have a cheerleader in your life. I know having these prayer ladies that pray for me and text me and encouraging me through this process, I don't want to lose them once I feel like I'm not ill anymore or I don't need them anymore. I'm going to need them my whole life. We need cheerleaders in our life to encourage us through the rough spots and to be with us in the great spots. Like God sent the prophets to them to hear from God, we need to have others that hear from God for us and to keep us going, to motivate us to keep building. Celebrate all your wins for God along the way, even the little ones, your own wins and the wins of others in your circle. And finally, find a teacher who's an expert in the law, like Ezra, and keep going. Keep challenging yourself to be sure that you are obeying the scriptures in all things. In this way, you're building up an impenetrable wall, just like Nehemiah did. This wall of obedience will help you keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. The final goal, the actual end time goal, is we need to be an overcomer. We need to overcome no matter what comes at us. We will overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. When we cross the finish line at the end of our race, we can't have anything left. We must leave it all on the field. Run your race and run it to win, and go for the high calling of Jesus Christ. Someday, we're all going to return to the stronghold, all of us prisoners of hope. We're all going to worship someday in Jerusalem at the Millennial Temple, a new temple. The plans are in the book of Ezekiel from 40 to 48. You can read about it there. Jesus Christ will be seated again on the throne, and we'll see the Shekinah glory fill the literal temple in Jerusalem, the glory of the presence of God. What a day of rejoicing that is going to be. The glory of the later temple that Haggai was talking about is actually the literal millennial temple. It will be magnificent. Until then, we're the temple of the Holy Spirit, being built up into a holy house, a royal priesthood. We will be filled with the glory of God too. When we join him in heaven, we'll be glorified with heavenly bodies and heavenly promises. In the meantime, return to the stronghold and remain a prisoner of hope. We'll have continual joy in the hope and all that God has stored up for them that love him and are called according to his purposes. Thank you for doing this Bible study with me, for joining in with me, and for building with me. I hope you will remember then to follow up after this with the building block video. It's the final one. I've got some wonderful questions, resources, and activity in there for you to do. I hope you will continue to follow up with all the activities I've motivated you to do during this Bible study. Return to me, you prisoners of hope, and I will restore double to you.